updates and interviews. The only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles. Got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Shout out Young Swish.
Guys, for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by the Right Way Sports Network. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host as always. We've got Daniel Almeida, we've got Logan Fulmer, and we've got Marissa back on the ones and twos. We got a lot of stuff to get into today, but before we do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys never miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. This is 2.0, mock draft 2.0 war room, where me and the guys will be discussing, debating our favorite prospects, standing on the table for guys that we love, guys that we feel like could make truly a big difference for the Cincinnati Bengals. Remember, we are outsourced essentially by the Cincinnati Bengals front office to conduct the perfect draft. We are on path to conduct the perfect draft and how that might look. So without further ado, before we jump into it, let's talk about what we did last week. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, I'm going to go completely off of a whim here, guys. I don't remember all the picks, but I remember pick 1 went to James Pierce Jr. Mm-hmm. Pick 2 went to Tate Ratledge.
Yep.
Pick 3 went to
we had a trade down.
We had a trade. We traded. Yeah, we traded back.
Picked up some more.
And in the third round, we picked up who?
We picked up Makuba and
Andrew Makuba.
I don't remember the other. I know we took Noel Williams in there.
Yeah, he was right after.
We took Noel Williams. We knew the draft conducted of Holland Pierce.
Yeah, Damian
Martinez.
Yep.
Was it Lopez? Not Lopez. It was
we took Monheim.
We took Jonah Monheim.
Ty Robinson.
It might have.
That's who it was. Ty Robinson.
Yeah. Oh, regardless, that was the people we took.
Yeah.
Not the exact order. But
I got it right here. I got it right here. James Pierce Jr., Tate Ratledge, Andrew Makuba, Noel Williams, Damian Martinez, Holland Pierce, Jonah Monheim, and Ty Robinson. Oh. Today, we don't have Evan on the committee to draft the perfect draft, but we do have me and the guys. It's funny. This is actually the original State of the Jungle crew.
Yeah.
And It's been, I don't think we've done a show where it's just the three of us in quite some time, but it's time to jump into it. It's time to get into it. Make sure you guys give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. Don't miss when we go live or upload content from TWSN Studios into TWSN Studios. I do have a question though.
Yeah.
Daniel, what is the one takeaway that you're trying to get from this draft? Right? Because we all have certain things we want to get across this draft. What is your main takeaway for this draft?
The main takeaway, I think, for this draft is to hit on the first 2 picks. Mainly is looking at, the big positions. I'm looking at defensive line. I'm looking at interior offensive line. I'm looking at, how these, you have to get the best players available. You have to. And I think that that's where, you look at these 2 guys and the 2 positions. I have to get somebody. And when I look at this edge class, you have to get somebody in the first 2 rounds. But I'm also looking, from a standpoint, this isn't just what the Bengals will do. This is what we think they should do. So for me, with I'm looking at this, I want the best players available, and I want to leave this draft with 3 guys at least, because respectfully, when you look at drafts, you're never going to hit on 100% of picks. If you get 3 very good starters, that is a massive win in a draft. I need to look at my class and say, hey, the first 2 rounds, I look at those guys as they will be bona fide studs. And I want at least, to leave the draft with potential guys that can, fill a need. But like I said, I think when we looked at our last mock draft, I saw 3-4 guys that could potentially be, starters. And that's what I personally want when I look at this, because like I said, you go back 3 years, 4 years down, in the past, very rarely do you have 3 to 4 quality starters. That's what I want in a draft. So
yeah, I think for me, just in general, like it's very easy said than done, but I just want good players that I know can make an impact sooner rather than later. Obviously, you're going to, maybe have some developmental guys here and there, a bit more bits of projects, but Bengals are ready to win now. That doesn't mean we necessarily draft people only to win now, but you got to find that middle ground of good players' needs. And again, it's very easier said than done, but draft good football players, and I truly believe at the end of the day, everything will kind of just work itself out after that.
Yeah. So without further ado, I think it's time to get into it. So Daniel, we already know this is the Daniel Telestrator. I'm sorry, the TWSN Telestrator.
I was going to say, I don't know if I want that for.
I think it's time for us to jump right into it. Make sure you tell a friend, let them know that the boys are back for State of the Jungle War Room 2.0. Often imitated, never duplicated. It's time to go.
All right, low speed here, at least for the first round.
Some wild stuff at the beginning last time.
All right, slow speed, 7 rounds. Let's get it going.
Tennessee.
Should be Cam. Abdul Carter goes 1. That's not happening.
Oh, yeah, up there.
Cam Ward goes 2 to the Browns.
Brownies.
Travis Hunter to the Giants. They're just messing up this entire draft already, right? Will Campbell to the Patriots. Such a Patriots pick. Mason
really
right?
is.
Ashton Genty goes 5.
Never know.
Ashton Genty goes 5. Jotted Daring to the Raiders.
It's a fun one.
I mean, I don't love him that much.
Late, but fun.
Membo. I've been seeing a lot of Membo love to the Jets actually recently.
I like Membo.
Tet McMillan goes to the Panthers.
Mason
Graham
9 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren to the Bears.
Yeah.
More offense for the Bears.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Will Johnson gone.
Matthew Golden. Ooh.
Wow.
Lord.
Campbell.
All right.
I think the Dolphins should go trenches.
Stark's gone. We are going to have some people on the board. Mike Green's gone.
Mike Green.
Talked about that last week a little bit.
And Michael Williams. So we see 2 edges go off the board here for our Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
First and foremost, let's talk about it real quick.
Oh, man.
Mike Green is a guy that I love. He's a guy that I love. The character concerns are real. The production is also very real. He goes off the board here. How do we feel about that? Daniel circles it. Wait, don't delete it. His pass rush grade 91.4 according to PFF, right? How do we feel? I believe he's one of the best pure pass rushers in this draft that is no longer available on the board.
Yeah, I think when I look at this, and one of the things I'll point out is his run stop rate. There's a false notion with Mike Green. Yes, he may have shorter arms. Yes, he may, be more undersized. He's not 6'5", but this dude can rush the passer. And I think a perfect example for Cincinnati Bengals fans should be Trey Hendrickson. They don't play similar, to the T, but small school, extremely productive college careers, and guys that they don't have the greatest physical traits, but when you look at Mike Green, he is going to be a very productive pro. And that's the end all be all. When you look at, what he did against, albeit lower level competition, he dominated, but he also played some pretty damn good teams. Virginia Tech, he dominated in that game. I understand what the grade's saying, but he was phenomenal, as a run stopper. He faced Ohio State. He obviously had that huge, sack on Will Howard, but this is a guy who flashes everything you want in a pass rusher. And I think maybe people are overhyping, the top 10, the top 10 juice for Mike Green, but I'm very confident when you look at these guys. If you want a pure pass rusher, I really think you have Mike Green in the same conversation of James Pierce, and they're right below Abdul Carter. So there's no world where this guy shouldn't be drafted in the first round. I'm very confident whatever team he goes to, he is going to produce at the NFL level. So I understand, he's a little smaller. He went to a small school. The dude was a force in the run game, and he just flashed every single time. And like I said, I understand the small school notion, but you look at that defensive line, he was the only guy doing anything on their defensive line. And that is something that you have to take into account when you look at Mike Green.
Well, can I be honest with you? Sorry to cut you off, because I feel like you're about to go. I hate that whole, he went to the small school ad, especially with today, the way college football is kind of shaped up. And Daniel, I understand where you're coming from with it. But I think you can only play who's in front of you.
Totally.
And for me, if a guy is playing at a smaller school against smaller school prospects, what do you hope to see from that guy? I'll tell you what you hope to see. You hope to see that guy dominate. And that's exactly what Mike Green did. What, 17 and a half sacks, 18 sacks, something like that? This dude was a man among boys. I don't want to spend so much time talking about my draft crush that got away here, but how does the reason why I'm bringing it up, the reason why I'm discussing Mike Green a little bit more in depth, guys, is with him now off the board, is this a spot where we entertain potentially a trade back?
I think there's not going to be many situations where you shouldn't entertain it. even in this situation, let's say James Pierce is off the board. Like Donovan Ezeraku is a phenomenal player. He's shooting up the boards all the way to 16. That doesn't mean necessarily we should take him. There's going to be Walter Nolan. There's going to be some of these offensive linemen, these bigger offensive linemen. There's going to be Derek Harmon. There's going to be some of these corners if you'd even prefer that route. In this case, there's not. But there's going to be a bunch of quality players. Yeah. No matter how you want to shake it. Yeah, maybe trading back allows us to take a bit of a different player round one because we get more picks into the second, into the third. The Bengals are in a spot where they need players, they need picks, and they don't really have – there's no perfect writing on the wall right now at 17, and the ability to trade back would solve a lot. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy to trade down, but it's always worth considering. I really do think so.
Yeah, I would totally entertain a trade back, and maybe this isn't something the Bengals will do. The way I view this is, man, there's a lot of these guys that I think it's a little too rich at 17, but I would love around this range personally. Like Donovan Ezeraku, you can even go down. Like Nick Scorton is a perfect example of a guy. I think 17 is a little too high, but if we're talking 24, 25, I love it. Yeah. I personally love it. So there's a lot of these guys. Obviously, we've seen some Kelvin Banks love for the Bengals. Yeah. Shamar Stewart is still on the board.
Yeah. So again, another one at 17, maybe not.
Shamar Stewart. He is a name that will be considered. But
I mean, there's a couple teams that could, example, the Texans, they could be trying to come up for an offensive lineman here. They just cut and traded every single one they had. Maybe they want to come up for Kelvin Banks, keep him in state. Maybe they want to come up for a Josh Simons, so like that's a team to watch. I think, the Chargers even have some, wide receiver needs. Maybe they want to go get Luther Bird in a team like the Packers. Maybe they want to go get Luther Bird. And it's always about who their team is trading up for.
Yeah. Let's scroll down for a second. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Josh Simmons is not the pick for me here at tackle. I know people are saying that, but what I will say is let's go to trade. I want to see what
see what teams are interested. We got two teams interested.
Probably right.
The Packers and Titans. Titans no.
No, Titans no.
But Packers is a good sweet spot, I'd say. Yeah.
I'd consider the Packers. Hear me out. We know if we're putting ourselves into the Bengals' shoes, we have to look to win the trade.
Totally.
We have to. So
8 picks. The
Packers have 8 picks. Mm-hmm. If the Packers are interested in us giving them 17, they have to be willing to give up 54 in my eyes as well. Mm-hmm. I think there's obviously somebody that they're eyeing that makes them move up. Let's see what the likelihood is. 39% chance to be accepted.
I would offer that, to be honest.
Let's see it. Let's see. No, okay.
4 attempts remaining.
Let's offer them. Well, I want to get the group. I want to get the groups because before I know there was times where I made trades in the past, people hated it. What if we offered them a 4th rounder next year? 56%.
I would even try, honestly, like a 5th first, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a point to try to win the deal.
Yeah,
Because at this point, as a trade gets accepted, the point of the deal to moving to the future picks is everybody knows the Bengals there's very slim odds of them having a worse year. So now this pick is going to be valued a little higher than it probably should be.
Let's pause. Hear me out for this. So I want to just recap people what happened.
Yeah.
We just traded with the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay gave us pick 23, still in the first round, and they gave us their 2nd rounder. So now already entering the 2nd round, we have 2 2nd-round picks.
Close.
We moved back a couple of picks. We gave them a 5th rounder for next year. We gave them a next year's 5th, and this year's 17. We swapped 1st-round picks this year, and they gave us their 2nd this year as well. So we acquired a 1st and a 2nd with the Green Bay Packers to make this deal a reality. And in turn, at pick 17, the Green Bay Packers select Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan. So we see one of those defensive tackles go off the board. I'm okay with that because there's a guy that I think might still be there that I'm certainly eyeing.
Yeah,
next few picks, man.
I'm totally fanning. And regardless, I do think that's a spot. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers, if somebody wants a quarterback, 17 could be a spot for them to trade up.
Josh Simmons goes to the Seahawks. I'm fine with that.
They need linemen.
Kelvin Banks goes to the Buccaneers. I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Donovan Ezeraku goes to the Broncos at
Shador Sanders.
Shador Sanders goes to Pittsburgh, and Emeka Egbuka goes to the Chargers. Now listen to me, guys. Guys that we talked about already from last time are on the board again. Guys like James Pierce Jr., guys like Walter Nolan. But can I introduce you to a name that Daniel told me about a couple of weeks ago that at first I said, nah, Derek Harmon. If you're looking to get a guy, hear me out. If you're looking to get a guy, right, who has the ability to rush the passer from the defensive tackle spot, right? We know he was a transfer. That's this guy. Walter Nolan, right? We know he has the upside to be really, really, really good, right? But when I look at it, when I'm assessing the situation at hand, I look at it and I say, you know what? When you turn on the film, this dude is just a bulldozer. He's a game wrecker. He's 6'6", 300 plus pounds. He's a guy that is truly going to be a game wrecker in the National Football League. I'm actually thankful because guess what? I actually thought the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to consider him there. You know, Marissa said to me a while ago, when I turn on the tape and you watch a guy like Derek Harmon, say, you know who comes to mind? I said, what? Who? I didn't even think that she would I wouldn't even think that she would come up with this, but she said Cam Hayward. She said Cam Hayward. And I said, if you're a Bengals fan, you know all about Cam Hayward.
Sure do.
You know? Jacqueline Hyde says, can you compare the two defensive tackles more directly? Sure. Yeah. I love this. I just hate to be boring, so I try not to be super boring about this. So I'm going to look right into the camera, Marissa. So make sure to put the camera on me real quick. So when you talk about Derek Harmon, at any point in time, Logan, feel free to jump in. I think what you're getting with Derek Harmon day one is you're getting the upside at pass rush. I also think you're getting the ability to stop the run. I think that Walter Nolan is a better run stopper than him.
Better doubt.
But I do think he's a better pass rusher at this point than Walter Nolan. However, I think Walter Nolan can develop and bridge the gap as a pass rusher. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you have to ask yourself, are you interested in taking more of a project at that spot? Or are you interested in taking a guy that could offer you something different from a 5-tech standpoint that a Derek Harmon can in the pass rush department? For me, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, I think Derek Harmon is completely different from any guy that you've potentially had in that spot, right? They usually don't have a 6'6" defensive tackle. And I agree. Somebody said, pass on peg leg Harmon. That's
peg leg Harmon is crazy.
That's crazy.
Who said that?
Somebody said
Michael
Harmon
Ruffin.
can't tackle.
Oh, no.
No, we're just providing. We are just providing thoughts on all this. That doesn't mean necessarily we're going to go here, but it is something that we should consider. We should talk about a little bit more. I think he offers a little bit something different, but I do believe that he has the ability to blow up plays. That doesn't mean he's always going to make up plays. I think somebody said it best. He's never going to be your double-digit sack guy, but he is the guy that's going to be a cleanup guy. Yeah. I think that's the best way to sort of describe him. Do the Bengals right now have somebody that can blow up plays and make you feel good about where they stand?
Yeah, I think, it's tough for me because I feel pretty confident in saying that Walter Nolan is a better overall football player. But I think the player that Derek Harmon is currently and the role he projects to have the NFL is probably more valuable and just what the Bengals have been missing for so long. So that's where it's I don't think you can truly go wrong with either of them, but just to kind of continue to go in depth about the differences between the two. Again, I think Walter Nolan is a better player right now because I think he is a phenomenal run defender and he still has the ability to get to the quarterback. He's not the pass rusher that Derek Harmon is, but Walter Nolan is more of a completely well-rounded player with that, more development in the pass rushing, area. That doesn't mean he'll necessarily get there, but obviously the upside is there. The run defending is always going to be there. Yeah, he's going to win differently than Harmon is, but that pure pass rushing interior defensive lineman is first off just becoming immensely valuable within the NFL. And Derek Harmon is awesome at it. 40 pressures in a collegiate season is just unbelievable. So it's comparing to maybe the more complete package to more of what you need. And I don't want to say Derek Harmon is just the need. You're not drafting Derek Harmon because you need him. He's a good player that happens to fit what you need. So that's, I really like the two. I lean Walter Nolan in terms of just purely a better player, maybe from an overall NFL standpoint, but from a Bengals specific standpoint, I think Derek Harmon makes complete and total sense.
Yeah. Now, boys, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. There's a guy that we salivated over the first time we did this, and he's still on the board at 23.
Yeah.
And that's James Pierce Jr., man.
Yeah.
Listen, I hate to be that guy to pick a guy back to back to back. I hate to be that because I want every mock draft, I want every war room to look different. Yeah. But how can you ignore this? How can you ignore the production of a James Pierce Jr.? In 2023, he had 13 sacks. This year, he had 8 sacks. How could you ignore that?
Yeah.
How could you ignore it? Listen, when you talk about a guy, he admittedly, he can get better with his hands, right? That's something that it's going to be a little bit of work in progress. When we talk about a guy that just is truly just an elite pass rusher, that's James Pierce Jr., who's acted That's James Pierce Jr. Pass rush grade 89.4. Run defense grade is good against the run. True pass set rush grade is 83.7. Listen, these are numbers you can't ignore.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm talking to a lot of my buddies and people that I know. I feel like these stories that people are trying to push this guy down the board is a lot of teams jockeying for position, hoping that he falls to them.
I agree.
Listen, I don't think James Pierce Jr. falls out of the first round, to be honest with you.
No.
I don't either.
I saw a mock draft the other day that had James Pierce Jr. falling all the way to the second.
Yeah.
I saw James Pierce Jr. falling to the second. I think I saw Walter Nolan falling to the second.
Yeah, and
so many guys, and I think it was from Matt Miller. And I was,
Matt Miller had
shocked.
us taking him in the second round.
Yeah,
they had us taking James
that's
Pierce
not
Jr.
realistic.
49.
That's not realistic.
No,
that's not realistic.
I think just to provide a different opinion too. I think if we weren't to go James Pierce Jr., the reason why we might go away from that this time opposed to last time is because we traded down in the first to get an extra second.
Yeah.
So now we have 2 seconds to play with, where we can maybe get a quality edge defender still with one of the 2 picks to where maybe we couldn't before if we didn't take him early. That's still a risky game to play. I'm not saying that's what we should necessarily do, but that option is just more likely because we have more picks between that range. But when you're going with when you're comparing with Harmon too, like we're still adding pass rush with Harmon. It's just it's a different style of pass rush. You can still kind of almost add more pass rush by taking Harmon versus James Pierce here. But again, we just don't know what's on the board in the second round, and that's it's going to become very clear very quickly whether, let's say we picked James Pierce here, and then there's all the defense tackles are still available. We're going to be great, but it could very easily be the inverse to where we take Harmon, and then now all the pass rushing, all the good defensive ends are just gone. Like that's a reality that you can face here too.
Let's talk about Jalen Walker.
He's fun. Jalen Walker, if you were to look at him, and I think that this is a much better spot trading down for him, he is going to be one that frustrates fans if he were to be selected, but he is one of the most explosive players on this board. I think he is arguably the most explosive pass rusher when you look at all these guys. And just explosive player. I mean, when you turn on the tape of this dude, every single time he is going 100%. And just despite him being 6'1", 250, 260, he is a built man. And I think he would be a chess piece to where you can put him everywhere. The only concern is he doesn't have, this extreme experience of playing the edge spot. So that's the only concern with him. But when I watch this dude, I mean, you look at him, the entire college football playoffs, you look at this dude, when he had, the ability to go downhill and be a downhill rusher, he was making plays happen. For me personally, when I look at pass rushers, I want somebody who has the second effort. And that's something I see with him and Mike Green. Those are the 2 best guys when I see a second effort. As soon as they get upfield, they get stopped, immediately spin move and get back. That's what I want, and I believe he has that. So with him, I wouldn't be expecting him just to be an edge rusher personally, but he's somebody that, Al Golden could mess with, have him be, a downhill linebacker and say, hey, you're my QB spy. Get after it. Lamar Jackson, if you draft him, you wouldn't have any problems with Lamar Jackson if he's, playing your linebacker role. So he's fun. There's a lot of questions, but he is an explosive athlete.
I was just saying with Walker in general, he's a fun player. He does a lot of things, but that makes him a tough eval as well. I think the way he projects to like an edge, this Micah Parsons comparisons kind of what's get thrown out with him, Jahad Campbell a little bit. I don't really see that with either of them. I think Walker can play the edge a little bit, but it's not something you want him doing full time that I think a lot of people really kind of like project. I think he is a phenomenal blitzer, and that's where he excels. That's when he's kind of off ball a little bit, flying off the edge, flying in the gaps. That's where he excels. And, I think that the idea of taking a linebacker kind of maybe feels weird a little bit. Walker is your hybrid. He does a little bit of everything, but I do think Al Golden, everybody knows he was our linebackers coach. If he identifies Jalen Walker as his hybrid defender, that's his linebacker, that's his specialty, as his guy, that can very easily be the case. And if that is what were to happen, again, it might feel weird, but there's a clear and obvious plan with him. I would like to imagine if, a guy like Al Golden is pounding the table for him.
Yeah. I'm
all right. I want everybody. You stumped. You said.
Yeah. I mean, I've got 3 guys.
Listen, I want everybody right now to do me a favor.
Yep.
I want us to do a little poll, but I also want to get. I'll make this last argument. We talked all off season, in season about pass rush, about needing to get more decent pass rush, and I feel like we're banking a lot on Myles Murphy. We're banking a lot on Joseph Ossai here in this spot. If we're truly talking about moving on from this spot, James Pierce Jr. is a guy that we went after the first time around.
Yep.
And it's undeniable why we went after him. I want everybody to submit. I want you two to submit who you want.
Yeah.
It's James Pierce Jr. for me, though.
Mm.
That's what I'm going with. I hear at 23. I love them at 17. I love them even more at 23.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've published so many things about my Bengals big board, and James Pierce Jr. will forever be at the top of it. You know, as much as I would like to change it up and provide these different opinions, it's just like if he's the player on the board, I would draft him every time.
Yeah.
You know, I think, yes, there's some worries. Yes, there's some things we can do differently, but we have 2 seconds now if we want to get creative or do things differently or add a bigger body edge to help him in the run game or just develop more. James Pierce Jr. is phenomenal to me. And I will never be able to pass up him at 17. I just won't.
Brian says we need interior pass rush. I just struggle. Where is that interior pass rush? I would have been all game for it if had the Cincinnati Bengals not made the decision to re-sign BJ Hill.
Yeah.
Right. And then you still have Chris Jenkins, the guy that they drafted. I'd have been all game for it. That guy's going to have a hard time finding snaps. He's going to have a hard time finding snaps with TJ Slayton, with BJ Hill, with Chris Jenkins Jr., with McKinley Jackson. And here you have to ask yourself, where also is Miles Murphy going to get most of his run this year? I think there's a world in which Miles Murphy gets a lot of run from the interior of the defensive line this year. And I also think that, do you love Walter Nolan? You have to ask yourself, do you love Walter Nolan or do you like Derek Harmon over a James Pierce Jr.? That's the question that we're asking about right now. Or do you love a Shamar Stewart? Do you love those guys over James Pierce Jr. here? I think people don't really believe James Pierce Jr. has bust all over. I think people are reading into what reports are and stuff like that. James Pierce Jr. has not shown anything to make you think that. He's active, he's dominant, he's elite. The numbers he has put up is elite. There's been stories that have come out. There's been stories that come out every single year, but a lot of that is jockeying for position, people hoping that guys slide down board and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really do not believe James Pierce Jr. will fall out of the first round. He admitted that, hey, he can get better with his hands, but that's fixable, especially at the NFL level, especially when you're winning at such a high rate off of your pass rush, your pass rush swim moves. Like that, I think it's easy to look at your hands as a workable part of your game.
The only thing, and I said it last week, but ever since I said it, it's been sticking with me more and more. The only thing with James Pierce Jr., and it hasn't, I'm not at the point where I'm shying away from him by any means. The only thing that leaves me like questioning is he's probably just, I don't say just, but he's much like Trey Hendrickson. He's a guy that is a pass rush specialist. So now who's going to be responsible on the early downs? Because playing James Pierce Jr. on early and run downs probably isn't the smart thing to do. Playing Trey Hendrickson on early in the run downs probably isn't the smart thing to do. So that's when that's my hesitation, and I'm not there where I shy away from James Pierce Jr. That's where I'm getting closer to like I'm just getting scared.
So the one thing I'll say to that is that's why you do have a Miles Murphy, right? That is why you do bring back a Cam Sample, right? And you bring in Joseph Ossai. That's why you bring these guys back who have shown the ability to stop the run. I just feel like I just feel like we'd be kicking ourselves because one thing that keeps going in my head is if Trey Hendrickson goes down,
then what?
Who's that dynamic guy? Who's that guy that you know? Listen, when I look at this board, James Pierce Jr. is the only guy unequivocally that I can look at and I say, hey, this is a guy I can see as a 10+ sack guy every season.
Yeah.
Like without a doubt.
And I think there's a clear level between like at this spot, like I really think like Nick Scorton is another guy that's fascinating, but I just don't know if I'm willing to take him over James Pierce.
Then that's what it goes back to. Do you love Nick Scorton over James Pierce Jr.? Because at this point, if you trade back, right, which is a valuable option, it's a consolation prize. I believe that you have to love the prospect that you draft, that you spend a first round pick on. Too many times, Billy Price was a consolation prize. Okay. There was a lot of consolation prizes throughout this process. There are a bunch of guys that they've wanted in years past that they settled on because it's just the way the board shook out. You're lucky James Pierce Jr. is still sitting here. That's the way I look at it.
I agree.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not sold on anybody else. Like Jalen Walker, I would really struggle to see. It's just too much all over the place.
He's a Swiss Army knife. He can do so many things. He can drop back in coverage. He can rush the passer. You can do so many interesting things with him. Walter Nolan is an interesting prospect for me. I do like Walter Nolan. I don't think that he's dynamic in the pass rush. I think he has one move, which is just bull rush. And if he doesn't win initially, he gets stopped. Walter Nolan is the only other guy that I personally right here. And again, you guys don't have to agree with me. It's completely okay. Walter Nolan only guy. Listen, I understand there are some sexy names at corner that people are considering, but I'm not there yet.
And
I
that's
still think,
also why we have 2 seconds.
I
Yeah.
think that's why also you look at it. The Bengals are in a spot where they trust their young secondary. Look at everything they've done this offseason. They are willing to bet that if they fix their pass rush, the young secondary will look a lot better. That's what they believe. They think that they need better. Right. They think that they need better help. They think that they need pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, I'm all for James Pierce Jr. here because, like I said, the 2 second-round picks I'm looking at, I'm saying, hey, offensive line, I'd totally entertain round 2. I'm good. Like Gray Zabel, I think the value is better in round 2. And when we're looking at defensive tackles, I think that there's going to be some guys I'm fine with reaching in round 2 for some of these guys. Like there's a lot of these guys.
If we're going to entertain a trade back, the furthest I would trade back is with the Rams. I would not wait for the Ravens. If you're going to entertain a trade back to any discussion in any scenario, you trade back with the Rams and that's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you right now,
dude.
the Ravens would take him. The Ravens would take him.
Texans could, I mean, the Vikings could. Their defense has nobody on the team.
I feel like,
That's just, I mean, and he's just the best player available. Like, it'd be tough to really trade back here, I think. We drafted James Pierce Jr. last pick at 17. We traded back. We already got second. Don't get too cute.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. You know,
I
especially if we all are kind of
we'd be kicking ourselves.
Yeah.
So what do we think?
I'm good with James Pierce Jr.
Let's lock it in.
Lock it in.
All
Lock
right.
it in. Lock it in. 23rd.
23rd overall pick in the
23rd.
2025 NFL Draft. Your Cincinnati Bengals select edge rusher James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee.
Love it.
Listen, I don't love drafting a guy back to back, especially when you're trying to be dynamic, trying to be different. But there's no way you walk away from this pick saying, damn, we got it wrong.
Yeah, there's no way. Literally not. Darius Alexander to the Ravens.
Dallas Alexander goes to the
Fun one.
Ravens, you know?
Yeah. Walter Nolan to the Lions is such a Lions fit as well, man. Like Loveland to the Rams, too. I know that went by. That's, again, Sean McVay's going to love him.
Luther Burden to the Chiefs. He stays in Missouri.
Booker to the Eagles there.
Wow, that's a good
Nick
pick.
Scorton to the Browns.
Nick Scorton is a very good.
Derek Harmon to the Giants with Sexy Dexy.
Yeah, man.
That's
Shamar
fun.
Stewart falls to the Titans. Like I think he should fall in the first round.
That's an interesting pairing though in Tennessee with Devondre Sweat. That is a lot of weirdly big athleticism in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
I don't know like exactly the plan for it or how it's going to work, but those are 2 big guys that move
Jack
extremely
goes
well.
In the second round of pick 40. Wow.
I love that. It's good
I
for
don't
the
love that
Bears there
either.
a little
Good
bit.
for them, I guess.
Landon Jackson.
Landon Jackson.
We got 2 picks, 6 picks apart in
Yep.
this round. So that's kind of fun here
Hell
as
yeah.
well. Princely, love Princely.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good pick for the Cowboys there.
Has Walter Nolan on the
Watts,
board yet?
yeah, he went to the Lions.
Okay.
Watts just went off the board.
I was getting
on-
excited for a second. I was about to say, okay.
2 double safeties just went
Wow.
off the board. I know a lot of people were probably looking at that. Jack Sawyer.
And
thing
Jack
to the
Sawyer
board.
is off the board.
All right.
This
This some
This
fun
is
names.
interesting. This is fun.
Some fun names here immediately.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So where are we at? We have 54 and 49, six picks apart. There's a lot of names here. It really depends on where we want to go. I mean, man, this is fun. I think, man, where do we want to go? Benjamin Morrison.
I think the corners here are kind of appealing.
Yes.
Like Siobhan Revel is super appealing.
Yes.
Obviously, Benjamin Morrison is super appealing with the connection to Al Golden.
Mhm.
Darian Porter, another massive corner, 6'3", 6'4", that used to play receiver, tested like an absolute freak at the combine. These corners are appealing, but like Malik said, we're kind of trusting that secondary,
Mhm.
a little bit. That doesn't mean we shy away from it. We have 2 picks that allows us to do it.
Now, here's the one thing I'll say now to that point. A guy like Juice, right? He's in a contract year.
Yep.
He's in a contract year. Even if he has a breakout year, who's to say that he does sign
Yep.
back?
No, yeah, I
Right.
won't argue against a corner in either of these picks. I think honestly, if we're really, unless there's a corner we feel really good about, I just named 4 corners. Maybe that pushes it down the board to 54.
Uh-huh.
That's about the only argument. But I love these corners on the board.
I've
I
got
won't
a
argue
question for you.
against it.
Shamar
I'm here.
Turner.
See, I like Shamar Turner. I love everybody on that Texas A&M line to a degree. It's fun. He's a pretty complete player. If you click on his PFF stuff, it's not going to look great to you. I promise you, the film is just better than that. It really just is. And I know that's not like me telling you much because the numbers aren't great here, but he's a guy that is just pretty athletic, that moves around the line, that does a lot of things well. He kind of did all the dirty work on that Texas A&M line with Shamar Stewart, with Nick Scorton, with Walter Nolan last year. Like he does a little bit of everything. Another guy in the interior is James Pierce Jr.'s teammate, Omar Norman Lott. I know there's some questions around his knee a little bit right now. I think that's what it is. another guy that just rushes the passer inside, and trading back, maybe it's a little rich with that potential injury stuff.
Mhm.
But again, he's an interior guy. If we fell short on adding one in the first round with Derek Harmon, maybe we looked at just James
Yeah.
Pierce's teammate and a guy that has a specific role and just a pure pass rushing from the interior. That's another option there to consider as well on the inside.
Well,
There's just a lot of
I also
guys
think
to be considered.
we wound up kicking ourselves last time because remember we didn't wind up grabbing that interior guy, which felt like a little bit of a reach later in the draft because it was like, all right, well, we got to draft one because he got all these these picks. Let's just draft for one of these guys to fill out the room.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm a fan here of adding an interior defensive lineman. I'm okay with double dipping. You have to look at it this way. You're essentially trying to make this room a strength.
Mm-hmm.
This is not going to be. I'll repeat this again. This draft should not be looked at as a sexy draft. This draft should be as a correction draft. It should be looked at to correct this thing. Logan, sell me on somebody, man. Sell me on one of these guys here that you really think from the interior or the edge. I have no idea, but that you think could really make a lot of sense.
It's really tough because some of these, I love Josiah Stewart, absolutely love him so much. But he's who I would target in the second round if we didn't take James Pierce Jr. They're the same smaller kind of plays. I think right now I'm looking at the board. I think the best players to me are some of these corners. Which is I love a lot of these interior guys too. I love Turner. I love Omar Norman a lot. But
this group right here of corners
is Revel and Morrison were first round prospects all the time. They got hurt, so now they're not, and rightfully so. They should drop because of injury and some of the other concerns. But they're just guys that are. Benjamin Morrison dominated Marvin Harrison Jr. last year. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't had the best. He didn't have the best rookie year, but again, he went so high for a reason. And Benjamin Morrison completely shut him out. He looked great. Darian Porter again, 6'3", 6'4", ran in the 4.3s. Siobhan Revel, again, you don't get that athletic testing because he's coming off the injury, but he's just been great. He's another Tyreek Woolen kind of guy, bigger, uber athletic man corner. It's really hard to kind of stand on the table for one person here, like you asked me to do. Especially just, I like some of these defensive linemen. I like so many.
Here's can I tell you on something before we talk about corner? There's a lot of corners right here.
Yep. I agree.
We picking 6 picks.
I agree.
There's also the question of interior offensive linemen.
Yes. And there's some good
right.
ones.
And we can go look at interior offensive linemen. We can see what's available.
We pull up
right?
tackles probably too.
Probably tackles too, because some guys can swing inside. Like a Marcus Mebo is a guy that I think Jordan Sabaina, I love him. Let me just say this right now. I don't know if he has guard upside.
Yep.
There. You think he does?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He said he wants to play guard in the NFL. So.
That is a guy that I would definitely consider, especially with our second round pick. But I do think that we should not ignore the interior of the defensive line here.
I don't disagree.
Again, I know it's not a sexy draft for people. I'm not interested in trading back, to be honest with you, in the spot because I feel like there's too many good names, and I feel like there are other teams that are salivating, hoping we trade back in the spot. Daniel, can we go back? Let's go to look at some of the interior defensive line.
If we shied away from the interior defensive line with how I think the position should be approached, you're looking at a pass rusher, and that's why Norman Lott came to mind there. And if we shy away from it, even Turner has it to a degree, Farmer has it to a degree as well. The only outside of if we just completely ignored it this round, you're hoping a guy like Peebles falls in the third round, which is again, it's hoping. That's not saying he will.
Yeah,
but that's that. I think Peebles would be the last really, really good expected pass rusher. I like Pagais from Ole Miss a lot, but again, there's some more little development, a little more well-rounded, not just a pure pass rusher that I think we could be using from the interior. Because that's the one thing that group is missing. BJ Hill's your well-rounded guy. Chris Jenkins is your kind of your do-it-all well-rounded guy. Slatton and McKinley Jackson are your big nose tackle types. They don't have that pass rushing guy from the interior, and that's what I'd be looking to add if we're going to take an interior defensive lineman here.
So I'm totally with you. And something I think is fascinating when you look at these names, Collins, more run stuffing guy.
Good player though.
The fun thing about this is I think the Bengals could take a page out of what the Rams did last year. Jared Verse and defensive tackle Braden Fisk. Who do we take round one? James Pierce Jr. Once again, I don't necessarily know how close these guys are, but at the end of the day, when these two guys were on the football field, the Tennessee, I was about to say Titans, they're weird with their rotations. They didn't play him a lot, but it wasn't because of him. It was because they swapped guys in on passing downs. They swapped guys out. They did the same exact thing with James Pierce Jr. The thing with him and the consensus with him is if this dude had more snaps, he would have been a dominating force. And he is clearly, when you look at the pure stats, he was the guy who won in this entire draft class. People are saying he is the #1 pass rusher from the interior, and I think he's got it. And when you look at, I know it's a weird thing to look at his hand size, but that is something that came out of the combine. This dude had the biggest hands out of the entire defensive line class. And a lot of times on defensive tackles, big hands win. And Omar Norman Lott has the prototypical size that you want. And as a pure pass rusher, that's what I'm in, the mode for. So I think if we're going defensive line on the interior, you're taking a little bit of a risk with him because he hasn't played a whole lot. But at the end of the day, like you said, you've got guys who are playing now. BJ Hill's playing now. TJ's playing now. Chris Jenkins is playing now. McKinley Jackson could get his shot now. You can have him come along slowly. So I think if we're going defensive line, I would, out of all these guys, I think he has to be the clear-cut guy.
Can we go off of defensive line for a second? And then listen, guys, there's a boatload of players still here that we could attack.
It really is.
It really is. I hear you on the lot, big guy. I really do. And that's what I'm sort of toying with right now because I'm asking myself, is he, it goes back to my old saying, you try to draft the best player available. You don't want to just say we have a need and we kind of reach on a guy just because.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree.
So
yeah. And I think I'm with you. I think if we're going best player available, I think you have to look at the corners.
See, I struggle with that though, because
really?
I do. The only reason why is because they're banking on these young corners to really show up this year.
Fair.
Like, guys like what's the obviously
DJ
Turner, Juice,
Newton,
Josh Newton. They're banking on these guys they're banking on these guys, and even that corner that we draft is not going to play over those guys. He's not.
And then just talking about going back to line, kind of that same mindset, just applying it to him, and the whole snap count that Daniel alluded to as well. Like, I just think that's going to be his role forever.
Yeah,
limited snap count, brush the passer. That's his role. That's probably why Tennessee did that, because that's what he's good at. That's what he's going to continue to do.
Yeah.
That's what he should do in the NFL. I'm not saying that necessarily means we should take him here, because I do think overall there's just better players on the board than Norman Lott. But just to kind of ease the worry about the snap count, the production, like that's his role. That's what he's going to play. That's what he played this year. That's where he's going to play wherever he goes. I think if we're really strictly talking overall best player available, on my personal rankings, it would be Josiah Stewart. Again, we're not double dipping on the same style of edge player. It'd probably go to the offensive line. Yeah. To be honest with you, Donovan Jackson's pretty high on my board. The Ohio State guard tackle flexibility. Iracy's a very fun player. I love Savaina as well.
I love Savaina.
I like a lot of these. I love the Bengals met with Ozzie from Boston College. Mm-hmm. Daniel's a big Imbo guy. I love Jared Wilson. All these players are phenomenal. It's just how do we want to accumulate our draft? It's tough. It's really tough.
I think as of right now, how I look at it, I don't think we should leave these two picks without one of here, or here. And that's just what I see. I think Ursary, obviously the Bengals met with him. Ozzie, they met with him. Two guys, you have the size that can, and they met with Savaina. And if we're looking at these guys, you're kind of picking him. All right, he's more of a tackle right away. Ozzie's more of a tackle. They can play inside.
I like that Jonas said he wants to play guard. Though.
Yes.
But here's the thing. I know Jonah will still be here in a few picks.
Yeah.
Jonah will still be here.
He could be here in the third round. Obviously, that's a risk.
Yeah.
But it's,
So, I'm totally.
Let's go back to that interior of the defensive line spot real quick.
Yeah.
Because we literally talked about this later in the draft. We're like,
yeah. Just in case there's something.
For sure. No, for sure. Talk to me.
I was kind of looking to see if we scroll down a little bit. Like I like Jared Ivey a lot there at the top. I like Jordan Birch. And I really love Elijah Roberts just because they're kind of those bigger guys that can play that pass rushing 3-tech a little bit, but they can still kind of be that bigger body edge on the early downs. But again, it's maybe a little rich. I would take Jared. I think Jared Ivey is the best of that bunch here. But again, are we really going to take a guy that's an edge with some 3-tech versatility right here after we just took him? I think you can certainly argue, and I think he's capable of doing so. But again, it's just how are we going to fit them? Where are they going to play? Are they going to play early? And what is their role going to be? That's why it's very hard to see. I still like Norman Lott. I still like these corners. We have the luxury of considering anything else. We could really, I wouldn't take a running back or tight end here, but if that's something that you guys would be interesting, some of these linebackers are like, a lot of people like Carson from UCLA. I'm not lower on him, but I wouldn't take him here at 49.
Yeah.
Demetrius Knight is a really, really, really fun player. He is old.
Mhm.
He's gonna be 25, I think, by the time his rookie season's over, which is just old. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of stumped. I think for me, whether it's this pick or the next pick, offensive line, I've kind of settled on. I'm taking one of those guys. This other pick, I think you could go like best player available, and like if we're not going to look at the corners,
we still can. Siobhan Revel is a guy that
Yeah.
I like. It does interest me. I'm not gonna lie.
Another thought process here. I know it would probably seem like a little overkill, but when you really look at the roster, it's probably not. How would we feel about double dipping on the O-line here?
I'm a fan of that.
Because we kind of in our agreement.
I'm a fan of that.
They're kind of the best players on the board.
I'm a fan of that.
And we kind of still have two holes on the offensive line at both guard spots. You know, it allows us to maybe take an Iracy who can play a left guard for a while and then still have that kick out. That's something to consider as well.
I believe. Can I be honest with you? I believe that you can never have enough pass rushers. Yeah. And I think that for the Bengals have the offensive line has gutted them.
Yeah.
Especially later in the, but at the same time, that interior.
I think especially if you trade back, you want two guys, and I think you would leave this draft selecting these two guys and say, hey, our offensive line is our strength of our team.
Offensive linemen for years with Mims from last year. Like,
I'm totally a fan. So I think as of right now, it kind of seems like I'm totally a fan. Jonah's the one, like you said, he wants to play guard. I think
it's a little rich for him right here. I think
for sure, but he's at least one where I'm saying, hey, I love him. I like all these guys. I think my other pick for tackle, if I'm looking at a guy who could potentially replace, be an Orlando Brown potential replacement, I'm here or here. Both of these guys, Ozzy, I don't necessarily know. I can go check him out, but he was one of the best pass protecting guys. And when you look at what the Bengals need, it is the pass protection. He's a guy where you look at him at the Senior Bowl, you go and watch the tape. He went up against some dudes, and it's almost the same thing. Can we kind of talk about Holland Pierce? Is hey, he just keeps guys in front of him, and I think that when I look at him versus other guys, like when people even talk about Kelvin Banks Jr., I see Kelvin Banks Jr. on the floor a ton. He was just a pro's pro. And when I look at Ozzy, like I said, he played left tackle his first season, and then right tackle. I'm a fan of Ozzy or Ursary. These are the two guys I would circle. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't ignore defense, guys. I'm being honest with you. I can't ignore defense here. I can't. I think in this spot, this is probably the last spot where I feel good. Like we're getting a guy that can impact player on the defensive side of things. I'm be honest with you. Logan kind of sold me on these corners, but he also sold me on. And we're not going to do it here, but Stewart here too. I mean, this is
I really like him. I like Ivy a lot as well. Other
guys. Norman Lott, you kind of sold me on. You kind of sold me on too.
With Lott, the only the whole knee thing. I think that's what it is that people are a little worried about. But again, like what he's done in college is just going to be his role in the NFL, and that role just happens to be exactly what the Bengals need. He's not a guy they have to allocate a ton of snaps to. He's a guy that's going to make an impact in the snaps he plays. I think that makes a lot of sense with connecting him with his college teammate in James Pierce Jr. It's just an exciting interior pass rusher. We talked about how much we wanted that in the first with a guy like Harmon potentially. I think he can provide that here in the second. Again, the injury stuff is a little potential risk. But I believe when on my top 50 Bengals big board, I think he came in at 49.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What does a trade back look like? I just want to see really quickly, briefly.
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's see who's interested. We only got one, but that doesn't mean much to us. It'd be the Vikings that pick 9.
Nah, we're
7.
Good. We're good. We're good.
That is wild.
Yeah, this
Vikings at 97.
Go to Siobhan Revel for a second.
Is crazy. Yeah. Revel's a fun player, man. He's a real fun player. It's
man.
It's hard, and again, it's hard to ignore corner in general. There's such impact players when you have a good one. A cost controllable corner goes a long way, like it does with pass rushers, like it does with receivers. Like Al Lonen's going to run a ton of man. He's going to rely on his corners a ton, and having a 6'3" corner that is a phenomenal athlete will never ever be complained about for me, ever. And Evan's not here, but he would say the same thing. He loves his corner.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Man.
All right, boys. What What are the
Poll.
What are the polls? saying?
Poll says Jonah right now. Omar Norman Lott in second. Benjamin Morrison third.
Wait, you said who's second?
Omar Norman Lott second.
Who's first? Jonah.
Jonah. And as of right now, it seems like, and this is what's tough. There's
Jonah over Ursay is
no, and I wouldn't personally. Like it's tough. The reason why I think he's such a good tackle. I think this dude is going to be a star tackle at the NFL level.
That's the discussion there.
And that's what, like, when I look at who he faced, also he played in the Big Ten. This is a guy who, and I keep going back to it, but the easiest one, if you want a pro comparison at the collegiate level, you look at that Penn State game and he played phenomenal. Abdul Carter beat him at times, but you just see what you want.
Let's go to Harrison.
In a tackle. Harrison is fun. He's fast.
Fast, yeah. Oof.
The problem and
those grades. Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh.
When me and Daniel talked about him when he ran at the combine.
Oh my god.
What I texted Daniel was, unfortunately, being fast does not make him any better at playing football.
Yeah.
He I get it. He's this crazy athlete. His 2023 tape is a lot better. I don't want to disregard that because playing corner is very, very, very difficult. It is like, so hard to do. I was like, oh, he's so fast. He catches up on all, he can really get, what's the word? He can really like catch up to the receiver. Yeah. He's catching up to the receiver a lot because he's getting toasted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe he's relying on his speed. He tried to experiment with that. And, maybe if Eli Apple was a world-class athlete like Harrison is, he can make it work. But it's just, I would not touch him over some of the other corners.
I
almost all of them.
Yeah, that was
not a fan.
It's. I mean, right. I don't know.
Listen, we're spending a lot of time.
Yeah.
We literally picking a few picks, guys.
That's why we're kind of. It's difficult though.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna pick twice here.
Go back to no.
Yeah.
What?
I can make.
I was talking to Trevor.
Guys.
I was talking to Trevor. You know what he said? He said a lot of people are giving Shamar Stewart love.
I like Shamar Stewart. But
when you turn on the tape, Shamar Turner is a guy that's taking on a lot of the double teams. He's making life a whole lot easier for a guy like Shamar Stewart, which even makes me question things a little more for Shamar Stewart. It's like, why weren't you able to have more production?
Yeah. His role at Texas A&M was they didn't really have that nose tackle. So like I said, he kind of did the dirty work for them. He kind of was the guy that was like, I guess I'll play more on the inside than you guys. But he's explosive. He's going to test well. I don't know how much he actually ended up doing. He's more of a well-rounded option here. He's pretty explosive. He does a lot of things well. Again, I will be the first to say his tape when you watch him does not reflect these grades, but it's because when you look, you can even look at it down their number. When he's playing more outside in 2023, he had more success. This year they played him almost strictly on the inside and almost over the center in between those gaps. That's not his strength, So if you play him as more of your traditional 3-tech, the upside is way more clear. The 2023 tape shows that so much more clearly. And it's nice to have him. While he didn't excel playing on the super on the interior, we know he can do it. We know he's experienced there. So he's kind of that, you can move him up and down the line. Yeah. He's a pretty explosive player. The tape is way better than the numbers show. Still 18 hurries, 26 hurries, 17 hurries, multiple sack seasons. He's still a good player. I'm still a fan.
So let me ask you a question. If it came down to Norman, right? Norman or Turner here, who are you taking?
I think I lean Lott only because of what I said. His role in college is going to be his role in the NFL.
Right.
He is going to come in and he is going to rush the passer. He's never going to play on rundowns. He's going to play on obvious passing situations and just get to the quarterback. I think it's very similar to my argument earlier with Walter Nolan and Harmon. Turner might be the better football player, but the Bengals need the better pass rusher. I would say Turner's pretty similar to a guy like Chris Jenkins, maybe. He's a little bit more well-rounded. Turner probably has more explosiveness off the ball in the pass rushing, but he's more of a well-rounded player that does a little bit more of everything. But Omar Norman Lott, his role is more clear, and what he will excel at is more clear and maybe more.
One thing you said, we find ourselves going back and forth with these guys right here, right? Turner, Lott.
Yeah,
you have to love the prospect that you're picking. You have to feel that they're going to immediately come in and be a contributor for your football team. You have to feel that way. Go to edge real quick 1 second, Daniel. Before that, I want to go to offensive line.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about JT here?
It's similar to my Josiah Stewart argument. I think he's a very similar player
Mhm.
to James Pierce Jr. And if I were to draft an edge player here, I'd prefer a guy like Jared Ivey, who I absolutely love, who again can kind of kick inside a little bit, but still has some of those pass rushing chops. But it's just again, if we're going to consider double dipping on the edge in general, I will continue to talk about Jared Ivey. You know, I think that's where
I
I would
respect
go
that
there.
for sure. All right, and last but not least, let's go to offensive tackle, Daniel.
Yeah.
Spot we keep going to. You know,
I know we keep going back.
Here's a question I have because I don't want wasted potential sitting on the bench.
Yep.
You get 4 years of these guys, 5 years if you pick up the fifth year option.
Yep.
Per se. Let's talk about him for a second.
Yeah.
You say you guys think he has star potential at tackle, right? And this part of this is what it is. And obviously I know about some of these prospects, but I want to be sold. I want the audience to be sold on said prospect when it comes to it as well. Ronte Ursay.
Yeah.
Do we see this guy? Do we think he can kick inside potentially for us if we ask him to?
Yeah, I think, and this is
he's 6'8", right?
He's 6'6".
He's a little shorter.
Yeah,
okay.
A little.
But when I look at him, and this is where I think if you are as good of a tackle that I believe he is, I'm very confident he will be at least a solid interior guy. When I look at him, like I said, I think that this dude will be a very solid offensive tackle I think he'll be a bookend tackle for an NFL team. And I think that I personally would even be looking at him being a high second round, even potentially early first round guy. So when I look at him, like I said, I think giving him the 3 years of production at a Big Ten school, I think is extremely valuable for me. I think that, when you look at what he did, also point to the Senior Bowl, this dude in the offensive line is a very difficult position to play at the Senior Bowl because it is one-on-one. You don't have your guard right next to you. It is you versus the pass rusher. And we saw him hold up against most of these dudes. And I think he's just got the size that you want. And for me, offensive alignment comes down to, do you have the experience going up against guys? And I rarely saw him getting dominated at the collegiate level. So I'm a huge fan of him. And looking at him on the inside, I'm confident he can play on the inside.
And according to my good friend, Cam Wolf, he even talked about it. The Bengals brought him in on a top 30 visit. They see the guard potential there. I'm listening to what our scouts in the comment section are saying. We need guard. We need guard. I think we should I think we should pull the trigger on Ronte Ursay.
I like it. Yeah, I like it totally. Yeah,
especially if this guy winds up being who we expect him to be, then that means when Orlando Brown does finally look to retire, you probably have your left tackle in the future, or you could draft that guy. It gives you some time. So I think Ronte Ursay is a guy I feel good about, and honestly, that wouldn't stop me from even double dipping and taking another guy, Pete Ratledge, or someone else later in the draft, because that's honestly, guys, I'm being honest. Yeah, that's a conversation we need to have soon because Pete Ratledge is I don't think he'll be there when we pick in the third round. So. Tate Ratledge is a guy we should talk about. Jonah Savaina is a guy that we should talk about. I just love the fact that Jonah is so willing to play that, but also he's physical, right? He's a guy that has a lot of untapped potential there. So for me, it's a Ronte Ursay.
Yeah, I'm in with it. Perfect. All right, with the 49th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, your Cincinnati Bengals select Ronte Ursay, tackle, Minnesota.
To add on to him in general, another reason that I'm confident with him fitting in at guard is because he tested phenomenally well. His RAS scored 9.89. Like, you don't get much better than that. His broad jump, which is a sign for explosiveness, he was 89th percentile. His weight is perfectly fine, but a 5 flat 40 for a guy that big is awesome. His 20-yard split, 90th percentile. His 10-yard split, 90th percentile. He moves really, really well for a guy that big, which is an easy indicator of somebody who can kick inside.
Yeah. And Zach McMahon says we have 4 major needs on the team, and tackle isn't one of them right now. You were drafting Ronte, so he is playing guard. That's the whole. But he projects even better at probably not better. I want to say better, but he does project that he can be a very productive guard in the National Football League. Saying that 6'6", that's why you draft him. That was the whole back and forth that we were having right then and there. Do we want to draft him? Do we feel comfortable that he can kick and guard at that spot? So that's why we spent that pick on him.
And I'm drafting best player available, to be honest. And I think that he is, when you look at tackles, I vision him being a starting offensive lineman. If you get a starting offensive lineman in round 2, that is a win regardless.
Yeah.
So,
I would entertain a trade back here. We have two. You have two offers right now, or teams that are interested on the board right
Pick
now?
60 lines is fun.
Okay.
And
And
the
90
Dolphins at 98.
let's
so
see
no,
Lions.
we've
Let's see the
won.
Lions. So we would take 60.
I mean, I wouldn't get greedy here. I know that's not what the Bengals necessarily do, but I mean, I would take almost any 102. I'd take 130. We're moving down 6 spots. We just spent an hour talking about the people we wanted at 49, and they aren't all off the board.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
see if 130 will be in the picture too. Oh no, go bulk. Take 130 off. take 228.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
All right. So just so we can hold on. Just so we can recap what we just did. We just gave them. We swapped our second round picks. We gave them pick 54. We gave them pick 54. They gave us pick 60, 102, and 228.
Yep.
So we added some more draft capital. We moved back in the draft.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
See what the Lions moved up for.
They moved up
who
for
they took Darius. No, they
JT.
They took Walter Nolan in the first and got JT.
They're built. Jared Ivey
that's a
goes to the
reasonable move up there
Chargers.
for them. Caleb Johnson.
To the Bills.
Sorry, James Cook. I guess you're not getting paid.
Carson goes to the
he's good,
Panthers.
yeah.
Elijah Roya
to the Texans.
Yeah,
the
Texans.
Ravens.
Benjamin Morrison goes to the Ravens, and the crowd goes wild. Listen, we pick here at 60. I'm being honest with you guys. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Go back to offensive tackle and offensive guard.
Yeah.
You trade back, you get some extra picks. Jonas Savaiina is still here, but Tate Ratledge is also here at the back end of the second round. How are we feeling about that?
Just in general, I mean, I love a number of these linemen still. We took Tate Ratledge last week for total and obvious reasons.
Mhm.
Right guard, play with Amarius Mims. It's going to be a perfect combination with them two on the right side. Like there's not really much. Again, argument. Yes, do some of these other guys have higher upside? Yes, I said that same thing last week, but we know Ratledge is going to come in, be solid. He's not going to have to move sides of the line like a guy like Jonah necessarily would, even though Jonah's moved around a bit. The only other guy that's really truly played on the right side is Marcus Imbo. So that's kind of where the conversation would be between them two here for me. But I don't think we can go wrong with a number of guys.
The reason why I'm saying the double dip is because I feel like this is the last spot where we're probably going to be able to grab another guy of these guys' caliber here at this spot. I think these guys are going to fly off the board here in the beginning of the third round. And I think if you have the chance to get rich here, you do it. I think that you draft Ursay with the mentality that he probably is going to slot in at left guard, right? And then you draft a Tate Ratledge with the thought process that he is going to be your right guard here. I hear what you're saying. Sese H says take Jarrett Wilson. Will be set at center. There's a guy by the name of Jonah Monheim that I love later in the draft that I think could be your center of the future, and has also played all three spots along the offensive line. But I also think this is just this thing of truly after this, you really can look at it and probably say, hey, we can go best player available.
And this is even like when we look at the offensive line position, you are kind of going best player available. I understand the Jarrett Wilson conversation, but for me, the same conversation when we started this draft, I want guys that can come in and I see being starters. I see Ursay being a starter at the interior offensive line and potentially being a franchise tackle. And I see one of these two guys, albeit Jarrett Wilson is phenomenal and he's mainly a center, but I want a guy that I think can compete for this job right now. And I think that Tate Ratledge and Jonah have a far better chance of beating Cordell Volson out for a job than Jarrett Wilson does switching positions. So
right now, those guys are battling for the left guard spot, right? Ursay is who we think slots in at that spot. At right guard, we don't have anybody right now, right? That you definitely
unless
feel. So,
Lucas Patrick.
Unless Lucas,
I guess
unless Lucas Patrick is that guy, but I think that Tate Ratledge beats him out for that job.
I'm going to kind of continue to ride the Jonas Savaiina train here. I think I just like him better as a player. I think he's a little differently than Ratledge. Ratledge is one of the safest picks anybody can make in any round of the draft, especially the Bengals when he's played so much with Mims. But Savaiina's played nearly 1,000 snaps at right guard in his career too. I just think last year he just decided, hey, I'm just going to play tackle now. He played 300 snaps at left tackle, 300 snaps at right tackle. So it's one of those things like, that's a little strange and just moving around like that. But he's moved around a ton.
Can I say you one thing? And so people are telling us we got to hurry up with our picks because we're already at an hour. Here's what I kind of agree with them. I really think we should go Tate Ratledge here, though. And the reason why is because the Amarius Mims thing is undeniable. They're playing next to each other, the familiarity. You're getting a true right guard. You know what he gets. Obviously, Savaiina can move all around the offensive line, but I want a guy that I could feel good slotting in right guard right away and being a very, very productive player. In my eyes, we already got a tackle that could play guard. I'd rather get a true right guard here in this spot and draft the Tate Ratledge.
Yeah,
That's
I'm good with Ratledge. And like I said, I just want somebody in this pick I think can be a starter right away and be my future guard. I'm good with Ratledge.
Are we good with that?
Yeah.
All right, so Tate Ratledge. We're going to try to move this on. I didn't realize we were already at an hour, but we appreciate you guys. Tate Ratledge is the pick. So we get Tate Ratledge with the pick. Donovan Jackson goes to the Chiefs. Ozzy goes to the Giants. Josiah Stewart to the Chiefs. Damn.
Line off the board there. But yeah, I really do like the double offensive line.
Yeah,
yes, I know a lot of people like might have some hesitations and some, whatever with it, but it's just you need it. I'm tired of worrying about it. Like now we'll have three.
Go to interior defensive line.
We'll have 3 cost-controlled offensive linemen for multiple years.
Oh
now.
Yeah,
guys.
Boys,
Deion Walker staring us in the face. He said he was playing with a broken back. Yeah. We need a defensive tackle. Let's try to speed this up.
Yeah.
And then you got Aeneas Peebles here. Yep. I know you guys really, really love him. And then you got JJ. How you say it?
It's Piggy. It's
Pokes.
Piggies
is here.
Piggies last week, and I looked it up, and it wasn't Piggies, but it was way closer than I thought it was gonna be.
I think that these are the 3 clear guys. I'm honestly at this point, I'm good with the Deion Walker.
I like a Deion Walker here, to be honest with you. He's different.
He gives you something different. I think these 2 guys are fun. He's 290. He's fun. I'm fine with giving something different. And I understand it's a risk, but it's we're round 3.
Yeah.
We already picked 3 guys we think could be starters. Yeah. I think that Deion Walker gives you something different.
6'7", right?
Yeah.
6'7", can rush the passer. If he was truly playing with a broken back, and then he winds up being able to show a lot more upside. Maybe that shows why when you turn on the film at points, he was still, maybe that is why it looked like he was walking at points at times. He looks like a game record to me. He looks a game record through and through and through. He's a guy that I think can actually be a big time difference maker for us. We have 2 picks in the 3rd round here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? We have 2 picks in the 3rd round,
hold on. No, I think they're later. I think this is the one.
We have 2 4th rounders.
We have 2 4th rounders. Okay, but I think we need to get our interior. We have 2 picks in the 3rd round.
It's a comp 3rd. Okay.
Yeah. But I feel like this is the spot where you can get your interior pass rush guy, and Deion Walker is a guy that I genuinely think that had it not been that injury, I think he'd be going in the 2nd round, to be honest. I think he'd be going a lot higher.
Totally. And I'm personally I understand we could look at the board. I think that when I look at the rest of these guys, I really think
it's still here.
Island's still there. Andrew McCuba's still there.
Man.
I'm kidding.
So I think that, and I understand people can say it could be too early for him, but you do look at his production last year, kind of gives you a good telltale into what he could be, and that just doesn't go away. I understand his pad level is very high at times, but in round 3, you're taking a shot, and I promise you, there is no player in the Bengals defensive tackle room that is as 6'7" and gives you something different. So I'm definitely a fan because I personally want to leave this draft with one of these interior guys. Yeah, and this is the spot.
Walker, to be honest with you.
I got no complaints with Deion. I think in general, yes, the back worries you. Yes, some of the stuff on film worries you, but he's the one player, like Daniel was saying, like just the upside is just absolutely undeniable. And we like Malik talked about earlier, the path to playing time for a defense tackle isn't the most clear and obvious. Clap, clap, clap.
Jonah goes to the wow. Chris Paul goes to the Steelers too, by the way. Yeah, so we get Deion Walker here too.
I like it. Just again with Walker, just the upsides there. He can take some time to develop with our interior defensive lineman room. You can deploy him in a number of ways. It's a guy that just checks a lot of boxes, man. It really does.
What?
Andrew McCuba is still sitting here on the board.
Yes.
Andrew McCuba is still sitting here on the board. I don't think we need to discuss this, do we? He's the safety that I feel the best. I feel like his ball skills are second to none. I feel like we can get our linebacker later in the draft, potentially a guy that we love. But come on now. Andrew McCuba is a guy that if we didn't have 2 3rd-round picks, we probably would have been considering him at that last spot there. You leave this draft feeling like, you know what? Geno Stone is out after this year. Andrew McCuba slots in that free safety. His ball skills are unmatched. He's a guy I feel good about. I don't need to say anymore. For me, it's Andrew McCuba here.
I got no arguments.
Yeah. And I think everybody would love it.
Yeah, I'm going McCuba.
Let's do it.
All right. McCuba it is.
We didn't need to stress.
Honestly, guys, I was praying that he was still going to be there. I was praying that McCuba was still going to be here. And this is one of the spots where we don't need to be like the Bengals. Again, our job is to just follow the board.
Yeah.
Follow the board and pick the players that we think are going to be solid contributors for the Bengals. And we do that here. And now we're sitting here at pick 119, still on the board. Damian Martinez is staring at us in the face. He's a guy that we drafted last time. We can spend some time looking and seeing who else is available here. But right now, so far, I feel very good about our draft. Dan, let's see who else is on the board.
Yeah, I'm totally a fan of our draft so far.
I mean, you can just hold it right there too. I mean, I think
JJ.
I think Harold Fannin Jr. is probably worth a conversation here as well, especially at this range. You know, I'm very indifferent about him in general because he's weird size. He's not the most athletic, but he's just produced. And I think, you know, again, maybe we want to go more defense, but I just think he deserves to be in a conversation at the end of the day.
I agree he deserves to be in a conversation. You know, if Evan was here, I think it was Evan. Jamari Caldwell will be a guy that we discuss. Even though we kind of go there. Can I talk to you guys about Noah Williams?
Yeah.
Noah Williams, right? You talk about a cornerback. We didn't attack the position before. We talked about him last week. Led the nation in interceptions. Ball skills are undeniable. Has return ability as well. Daniel, talk to us about your guy.
Yeah, I'm totally. And this is the guy where if you want a cornerback later in the draft, Noel's pretty much the guy that I'm penciling in late round 3, early round 4, round 5. He's a guy where I really don't have concerns about this dude being a productive pro. He can play. He's going to play on the outside. He's not a slot cornerback. He's 6 foot, very strong. And that's what you're kind of getting out of him. You're getting a guy who's going to play press man. You're getting a guy who can, play, bump and run coverage. And his biggest weakness, quote unquote, is his deep speed and his ability to stay, with wide receivers like a Xavier Worthy. But to be honest with you, that's not really what I need him for. I want him to be a ball hawk. I want him to be a guy, pretty much what you see, the Bengals want Cam Taylor-Britt to be. I think Noah Williams for sure is going to be that. And I think he gives you that reassurance of, hey, if Cam Taylor-Britt doesn't work out, I think that this is a perfect replacement. And just a guy you add to the room, I think he adds a ton of value. So I think best player available, I think Noel's in the conversation for sure.
Can we go back to our picks so far?
Yeah.
Our picks. So far, just to kind of update everybody, James Pierce Jr., Arante Irsay, Tate Ratledge, Deion Walker, Andrew Makuba. Logan, there's somebody.
I just realized he went the pick before, so I was like,
who was it?
Barrett Carter again.
Barrett Carter.
One of these weeks I'll get to talk about Barrett Carter. But there's no other linebackers. I'm not going over this Jack Kaiser thing again like we did last week. I am good on him in general.
So if we go back,
let's scroll to the top here. I mean, Noel's obviously fun. The Bengals met with Tootin from Virginia Tech. I like Hassanine a lot. Powell Ryland again are kind of different. I think Hassanine here is a guy, I guess I'll kind of talk about from Boise State. He's a guy with a really interesting background. He's a little bit bigger of an edge. Not bigger. He's just bigger than James Pierce's 6'3", 271, which is kind of that more historic mold for the Bengals. But just, again, a super interesting draft story. Was a CrossFit star in Egypt and then came over and was like, shit, I guess I'm going to go play football. And he's back-to-back years of 30-plus pressures, good run defensive grades, good pass rushing production. Gives you a different style of edge of James Pierce. He's kind of more of like more of like your Miles Murphy kind of edge player where he's bigger. I guess the production is better than Miles Murphy had with the 30-plus pressures in back-to-back years. But just gives you something different at the edge position is, maybe a guy that can kind of spell some early downs. Just there's still some development. There's still some upside there with his athletic background, still trying to transition that into football and how to get the most of it on the football field. But he's just a fun player here in general. That is, again, we'll need a little bit more development. But just if you're going to need development and still post 30-plus pressures in back-to-back years, you probably just deserve to be in the conversation more.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. For me, when I look at a guy like Noah Williams, man, this guy has produced everywhere he's been. He's a guy that I genuinely think could find himself playing true starter minutes in the National Football League. And I don't know. I love him here. That's my guy. You guys can talking amongst ourselves and seeing who we love.
Yeah, I think for me it really is like Noel. I personally, just looking at our draft, I want one of these running backs personally. And we can talk about it maybe for the next pick.
There's a
Jaden Blue is a fun one. He's more of the Chase Brown-esque mold. He is extremely fast. I think the fastest running back in this class. Kyle Monunga is going to be a fun one in next pick. So I definitely, just looking at this draft, I want to leave this draft with one of those guys. I'm totally fine with Noah Williams here, to be honest with you.
I know we're seeing a lot of a lot of love for Damian Martinez here.
Damian Martinez is definitely the one that he's definitely the best running back on this board. We did him last week, and I think that that's kind of what, if you want the mold of the big running back, he's the guy you're taking. The other guys I'm considering like 5'9", 5'10", explosive common run guy. So
I do feel like we haven't given the offensive side of the ball a lot of love just yet.
There's some guys on the board I think worthy more than now per se. I don't know. I like some of these backs.
He's my hero fan in Junior. Let's go to him.
I mean, talk about
production. All over with this board.
No, I'm good with
the production of Harrison Jr. is good as just. I mean, look at it. Everybody knows it. Like he was. I don't know how he didn't win the best college football in the nation. I get it. All right, Ty Warren is deserving enough of it. Harrison Jr. is just an uber productive player. Like I like. Again, he's gonna take some creativity to kind of excel in the NFL. But the Bengals have shown some major success with Mike Gesicki, but he can still kind of come and be. And a lot of people kind of want him to maybe be more of an H-back, kind of role, like a cracked out fullback, more like Kyle Juszczyk kind of vibe, but like way more used. Harrison Jr. is a good player, and there's just no doubt about that to me. Again, how you want to use him is up for your own discretion. By however you decide to use him, I just think he'll be good at it.
His run blocking grade, man. Wow.
Yeah, I think I'm a fan of him. I like him, but I also like Gunnar Helm, and I don't know what the difference is. The biggest problem
one
with
played
him,
at a bigger school versus one played at Bowling Green.
I think the difference for me is the problem with Gunnar Helm is he's kind of slotting in where you want Mike Gesicki to be, and I think that's where.
Different.
And if you want something different, Harold Fannin is the guy to go. But I'm confident Gunnar Helm is going to be a very good tight end in the National Football League. Does he fit with the Bengals' plan, and will he find time to play?
Now, to be fair, the Bengals also apparently are planning to use Tanner McLaughlin a lot this year.
As they should.
And this is a guy that was very productive in college. I feel like the pick for me has to either be Damian Martinez, Harold Fannin, or Noah Williams. That's where I'm looking at those three.
In general, I still like corner here. Like we talked about how good Makuba and Noel fit within the Al Golden Ran system. Again, and it may be a little annoying that we picked the same people, but there's a reason we're picking them. There's a reason they fit. Like it makes sense. Like I'm not going to argue against Noel here at all.
Yeah, I'll probably go Noel. So
all
right, Noel Williams. Pick number 119 in the NFL draft. Bengals select cornerback Cal Noel Williams.
So three left.
We got three. We got
three left.
Got 3 picks left. Damian Martinez goes to the Steelers. That's gonna hurt.
Fannin.
Yeah.
Jaden
all the guys we were discussing go
as they should. Caldwell to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Oof. Piggies
goes to the Saints. We're okay with that.
Piggies
from last week.
Yeah. Home to the what's it called? The Seahawks.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel.
Jack Kaiser goes to the Panthers here. Okay.
Rashard Smith. There's some interesting guys.
Oh yeah.
Tootin off the board as well. We're coming up here. Kyle Williams. That's a fun.
A lot of forfeited picks.
Kyle Williams is fun.
Yeah, I know.
All right. We're back.
Right, so we've got 3 picks left.
3 picks are left. Yes, sir.
Man. Depends.
What are you liking, Daniel? Anything standing out to you?
For sure, like best players, I'm looking at.
Can you go to center too?
Yeah. I'm looking at interior offensive line.
John is still here.
Yeah. So I think for me, how we look at Jonah Monheim's still here. Where's he at? He's right here. I think I'm looking at the players I love. Common on guys on one. I've just been such, huge fan of it. I think if we're talking best players available, I'm a huge fan of him. I like Taj Brooks a little bit later.
Ollie Gordon?
Ollie Gordon's fun. I like him. LaQuint Allen.
I like
I was going to talk about him in a little bit. But he's definitely somebody I like a lot.
So I think that if I were to stand on the table for any player, I think I'm looking at the running back position right now. And I do think that if I'm looking at a guy, I think it's probably Kyle Manon guy. He's not giving you something that is fully different size-wise to a Chase Brown. But when you talk about a guy, once again, I really don't see how he's not successful at the NFL level. I don't. He's not the most uber athletic guy, but this is a guy who, look at how many carries this dude had at the collegiate level. And he had a grand total of 0 fumbles. So if I want a baseline of a running back that can just be a productive running back, that's Kyle Manon guy. And he's a guy where you're not looking at an explosive athlete, but you're looking at a guy who is going to run players over. And you're looking at a guy who Rutgers offense respectfully wasn't talented. And it was a lot of give Kyle Monungai the ball. So he's going into a Cincinnati Bengals team where you're going to see a lot of open boxes. You saw that with Chase Brown. So I think if there's a running back, I think Kyle Monungai is definitely one
We're
that
seeing
I'm
a
looking
lot
at.
of love for Danny Stutzman here, the linebacker from Oklahoma, by the way.
I was just going to talk about another linebacker before you get to Stutzman. I like Cody Simon a lot here from Ohio State. Again, we know the Bengals have a history of drafting Ohio State players. They also have a history of drafting high character players, and that is another thing that Simon is. Graduated super early, several academic awards throughout his time at Ohio State. Again, that doesn't like that. I'm not saying that like you should really use on the argument. But that matters a lot to some teams, and the Bengals just happen to be one of those teams that it matters for. He's a good athlete. Again, you can see the 90.6 run defensive grade, the 80.6 pass rushing grade. What you don't see up here is his 7 sacks he posted as a linebacker. He's a great blitzing linebacker. He plays exceptionally well down here while still holding up better in coverage. And a guy like Danny Stutzman does. Danny Stutzman does a lot of things similar to Cody Simon. They come downhill, exceptional, but he's not the guy. He's not the same as Cody Simon is in coverage. Simon doesn't do it as much as Stutzman does. Maybe that's why it's a tough thing to do. But at the end of the day, Simon has a history of being a productive blitzer, a productive downhill player. And when you look at the linebackers on the Bengals roster, Logan Wilson, great linebacker. He's not some downhill force.
Yeah.
Orion Burks, great linebacker. Again, not really an imposing downhill force. So I think a guy like Cody Simon, Cody King, or even Stutzman makes sense as just a downhill first linebacker.
Yeah, I think that if we're talking, I do think that this is a position where I wish we could have. I mean, it obviously didn't fall our way, but I think that these guys, this is a solid group of depth guys, and I think that if we're looking at, I do like Jay Higgins a lot as well, and obviously Dumas and Small are two guys I like. I like Cody Simon here, and I think that it fills a need as well. So I'm good with the Cody Simon, or if we want to discuss, are you Mahim? I don't know if you want.
I think we can get Mahim next round, personally. I think he'd be there.
Yeah, so
I think that we need to finally give Logan his linebacker love.
Yeah.
We have literally wasted that hit a couple of times. We're like, oh, we'll just get a guy later, and then they dry up on us. So out of all these guys at the linebacker spot, Logan,
I think Cody Simon would be my guy here. Him and Kobe King are kind of the guys where I'm like teetering back and forth between.
Can we go to Kobe King stats?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Kobe, again, he played very well down the stretch for Penn State. He's another guy that is just a really good run defensive grades, 89.2 in 2024. Last year before, he's more of your really downhill guy. The year before, 85 run defensive grades. That's what he's good. He might lack kind of that versatility that Al Golden could be looking for, which is why I kind of think that Simon is the slight pick for me, just because he provides a little bit more versatility. But again, King's a guy, he hits people hard. He's a very physically imposing linebacker that just hits people. He'd be the guy that kind of holds that room together, which is what I'm talking about with these downhill physical style of players. I think Simon is that.
Yeah.
He's got the sacks with 7 sacks as well, but he still has a little more versatility than Stutzman, than King. That gives me the edge here. That's why I like Cody Simon.
All right, perfect. So we said
Cody Simon
right there, 174.
All right, with the 153rd pick in the NFL draft, Bengals select Cody Simon, linebacker, Ohio State.
DJ USA says Stutzman's better. Can't please everyone, I guess, right?
No, PFF also disagrees. Not that that matters, but I mean, Stutzman again. He was another guy that was very, very hyped up coming into the year. But again, a guy that has a phenomenal run defensive grade, over a 90. But he also employs the worst coverage grade of any linebacker in the draft.
Guys off the board. You press pause. Yeah. Let's trade up with the Titans if we can.
Yeah.
Let's offer them our pick. Let's see our pick in this round. Let's see if they'll just do it.
193 for 178.
Yeah. Oh no, it won't be accepted.
Yeah. You would need to add one of our 228.
Yeah.
80. I mean, do we want or next year 7th?
We can't give away another pick from next year.
Oh, that's right.
I
mean, we can
a 20. Wait, what? What is this?
I mean, this is our 7th round pick
for their pick.
No.
Oh,
let's give them a 7th in 2027. See if that'll do it.
42.
Let's see if that's accepted. Let's give them a 6th in 2027. All right. Cool.
On the board.
Let's. I really think Ollie Gordon should be the pick here.
Really?
Yeah, I think Ollie Gordon should be the pick here. I think that will make us feel very, very good about our running back room. He's a downhill runner. He's a guy that I think we feel very, very good about.
Yeah. I like him. I like him.
All right.
All right.
I got
Let's
no
do it.
qualms.
Perfect.
Similar
Ollie
to
Gordon.
very similar to Damian Martinez from
And
last
you,
week.
listen,
like,
you move up in the draft. You get that. Listen, it's what is it? A couple,
Extra seventh
extra seventh
or
right?
sixth. Extra sixth.
You know,
it is what it is.
I feel like we needed to pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, you get a guy that's going to play, just like everything we explained with Damian Martinez last week is Ollie Gordon. But I mean, if we're really going to truly be honest,
Press pause.
Yeah.
See if the Rams will trade their pick this round. 201 for 228. No. All right. 202 or 228. No. Okay. All right. Whatever. Cool. Resume draft.
we were just curious if they just wanted to trade back for fun.
I mean, maybe they were undecisive because they had 2 picks. So I thought maybe that was a lot of their pick.
Yeah, taking stress off of us, guys.
Hey,
Were you still waiting for Monheim? Is that what
That's
you're
what I'm
doing?
waiting for. Yeah.
Higgins is a good pick.
Press
too.
pause for a second.
Yeah.
See, hit up the
Okay,
Patriots for 217.
The Patriots.
Patriots, yeah. Listen, I'm wheeling and dealing right now.
The Patriots also have 220. Just saying. Over here.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, they're not doing that, are they?
No.
Give them a round 7 in 20
Next year?
in 2027. Yeah. Resume. Offer trade, yeah.
All right.
All right, resume.
On the board.
He's just gonna go, isn't he?
Oh.
He's just gonna go, isn't he? He's gonna go.
Oh, there it is. And then we get Jonah Monheim.
All right.
Are we blind? Did he go?
No, he didn't go. Daniel's just not going interior offensive line because he doesn't want to pick him. He wants to see who else is
No,
available.
I'm looking. Jonah might have gone.
He's gone.
No, he didn't go. Wait, go back.
There's
What?
No, he did go to the
Oh.
Jets. He went to the Jets here. We didn't see it.
It's all right.
Chuck
Undo.
2624. We're talking about a 7th. We gave away a 7th. We swapped 7th round picks and 6th round picks. Come on now. Stop it. Cut it out. Let's
do you still? I mean, there's
Yeah.
still some good in
There is some-
interior
still some
offensive
names.
linemen if you want to continue to go interior offensive lineman, or was it just a Monheim thing?
I wanted Monheim. I love his position versatility. I loved everything that he offered. Wait, go back.
Yeah.
You're going fast. We still got Holland Pierce on the board.
I think in general,
Mhm.
if we wanted to like Monheim, the center, Monheim has a positional versatility, but if we wanted to go just with a straight another center that you would hope can have some guard versatility, Jake Majors from Texas. There's a good argument for him to be the best pass blocking center. He's right there too on the board. Good. I mean, 85.4 pass blocking grade. Texas, their offense, they're a pass heavy team. They throw the ball a lot. I don't say their offense isn't similar to the Bengals in terms of like the plays they run, but the tempo, the pass heaviness, the relying on the quarterback, the straight drops is very similar. And an 85.4 pass blocking gain and an 84.5 on true passing sets it's just tough to argue. Maybe that the only like question would be is he gonna be your center? Is he gonna be a guard? Is he a depth? Whatever it is. But I just think he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
And guys, don't blame me either for missing the Monheim pick. He moved up the speed of the draft, so I couldn't. It went
this
from
is true.
earlier going slow.
And
to
we all
super fast, so we
it's
didn't.
all
That's
of our
my
faults.
fault.
It's all of
It's
our
all
faults.
my fault, yo.
I mean, again, if continue offensive line, Clay Webb right there as well from Jack State's another name. That's if we wanted to continue to go. We can also
No one said it was all your fault. I'm just saying I didn't see the pick, so I was going for it. That's all.
I was just saying
Okay.
it is.
we can also double dip at linebacker. I don't think that's a bad decision at all. Jay Higgins, Teddy Buchanan, are guys. Malachi Moore is even another fun, versatile piece there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of however you want to end your draft. I think Smail Mondon is a good way to end it as well, just because he is an uber athlete at the linebacker position. That's a fun,
Kyron
that's a fun
Lacey.
addition. No,
You know what?
not Kyron Lacey.
Well, we moved up here. We did. Now we're
Moved up
stuck.
for fun. That's all.
Well, no, I really moved up for Jonah Monheim. That's what I moved
Yeah.
up. I didn't see the Jets took him, but Holland Pierce is an interesting name. Malachi Moore playing the nickel. It definitely is a spot.
I mean, again, we talked about tight ends a little bit earlier. We probably won't do it. I love Ron Gatson from he's up top from Syracuse a little bit. I mean, he's essentially how exactly you're going to use Mike Gesicki. You're going to use Ron Gatson again, almost 1,000 yards in his back-to-back years of being healthy. True mismatch at the tight end position, but again, he's not really your true tight end. He's exactly how Mike Gesicki is being used is how Gatson will be used at the next level, which I assume is how Tanner McLaughlin, the Bengals, envision him using. So it's a little bit of overkill. Again, just another really good player, a former wide receiver, so maybe you can get a little more wide receiver-like things out of him. Just a really good player.
Yeah, I think I like Gatson. I like
The
Pierce.
linebackers make sense. Moore makes sense.
Malcolm Moore's fun too.
I'm sorry. I just personally, this is just me. I love Holland Pierce here.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be relying on, Cody Ford playing backup tackle.
Mm.
I like Holland Pierce here, 6'8", right? I know
Yeah.
that we talked about Irsay having that guard potential,
Yeah, but if he doesn't have to, he doesn't
but if
have
he doesn't
to.
have it, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know. I personally would
I
love
got
Holland
no
Pierce.
qualms with
I love
offensive
Holland
linemen.
Pierce.
I'm
here.
good with it. Yeah.
Finish it off.
All right. With the
And again, let me just say, let me
217th.
give the analysis as to why while we draft. So you can draft them there.
Yeah.
You can pick it. But again, violent hands, dominant in the run game, has a tremendous upside, and tremendous upside as a pass blocker as well. He can learn from guys like Orlando Brown Jr. He can learn from guys like Amarius Mims who have the same build as him. I think we can't talk enough about how important it is that he's coming into a team with two tackles with the same exact build as him. These are things that are important to me. I think that Holland Pierce is going to want to be a very, very good pro. He has even said that he would be willing to play guard, although I don't know if teams will be willing to have him there. The question for him is, can his feet pick up a little bit? Right, his feet I definitely think can be slow at times, but I think that Holland Pierce is going to be a guy who has violent hands, physical for you, and I think that you fix a lot of the issues. You make the strength of your team, some of the trenches. You made the strength of your team the trenches. So
Which is what they
again,
need.
this was not necessarily the most sexiest draft, but this is a draft that gets the job done. I think that we're looking for. So
totally. And I think you leave this draft with two.
Arante Irsay is looked at as a D+ is crazy from PFF.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But you leave this draft overhauling your offensive line room. And I'm a fan of it. I think that's what's needed. You win football games in the trenches. And a lot of this, quite frankly, comes down to, does James Pierce Jr. hit? And I think that's where a lot of your draft comes down to, because if James Pierce Jr. is a star pass rusher, I think this is a home run draft, because I'm very confident, worst comes to worst, out of these three offensive linemen, one of them is going to be a star. I'm confident, whether it's Tate Ratledge, Ursary, or even Holland Pierce later. And I look at one of these two guys, both very quality guys, in your secondary. One of these two guys is going to be a starter for the next 3-4 years.
If not both, potentially.
Exactly. And you get upside in the pass rush with Deion Walker. I think this gives you something different. And you look at every position, you add somebody to the room of pretty much every single position: linebacker, running back, offensive line. So worst comes to worst, I am a fan of going trenches with the first 4 picks. And at the end of the day, we traded back so we could have the depth. And I think that's something valuable that the Bengals need, because I would rather rely on a Tate Ratledge than have, like you said, a Cody Ford. I'd rather rely on Ursary as my, interior offensive lineman and be my tackle of the future. So I'm personally a huge fan of this. And like I said, trading back gives you a lot of these picks. And I think that we hit on a lot of these picks. So I'm totally a fan of this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just to give my final analysis on it, let's talk it through really quickly before we head out of here. You bring in James Pierce Jr. because you get pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. You got to feel good about that. If Trey Hendrickson goes down, you have to look at the pass rush and say you have a gaping hole at pass rush. Now you kind of fix that with a guy like James Pierce Jr. Are you saying, oh, damn it, we draft James Pierce Jr. What happens to Cam Sample snaps? What happens to Miles Murphy snaps? What happens to Joseph Osai snaps? Are you saying that? Nobody's saying that. We're saying that we probably potentially have another guy. It could be a double-digit sack guy in the NFL, and potentially even a sack leader as he matures through his NFL career. Guess what? The one issue when it comes to James Pierce Jr.'s game that he talked about was his hands. Who's elite with their hands? Trey Hendrickson. So who can he learn from? Trey Hendrickson. You get Trey Hendrickson's contract done and back in the fold, well, everybody's happier. Now he's looked at as also mentoring a guy like James Pierce Jr., right? So by the time that his contract is done, James Pierce Jr. will be up for a contract extension. That's the hope right there. Then you're like, oh, wow. And then imagine if Miles Murphy comes along as well. There's a lot of potential here. You draft Arante Irsay, right, who stands at 6'6", because you say, you know what, our starting guard right now at left guard is Cody Ford. Yeah. That's what it is. Does Arante Irsay excite you more than Cody Ford? Yes. 6'6" is a guy that could play along the offensive line. You keep him on the left side of the offensive line at left guard next to another your booking tackle, Orlando Brown Jr. So you have two massive human beings protecting Joe Burrow. Guess what happens? The swatted passes, those guys are able to get a hand on these defensive linemen and drag them down. Those batted balls won't be a thing. Arante Irsay is technical, right? This is a guy that is going to excel blocking for Joe Burrow. Then you know what we do? We say, you know what? We're going to trade back. We're going to trade back. We're going to trade we're going to trade back. We're going to get pick 60, pick 102, pick 228. And we gave him 54. And everybody goes mild. And everybody says, why did you do that trade? Well, we did that trade because we wanted to get more draft capital. Right now, what are the Bengals missing? They're missing more draft capital. When we traded back in the first round, we gained more draft capital. We gained pick 23, pick 54. These picks allowed us to maneuver and do more things that we weren't able to do last draft, right? With that, we get a guy that probably wasn't necessarily the best on the board right there, but he was the best at his position. Yes. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to think. Jonas Savaiino was a guy that we discussed here. He's a guy that we liked for his athleticism. But we draft Jay Ratledge because, number one, you're getting a true right guard, a guy that has familiarity with a guy like Amarius Smith. So you slot him in there, and now you have a bookend. You have the bookend on the right side, bookend on the left side. You feel very, very good about those pieces. And Joe Burrow gets to stay upright. Right, Deion Walker is a guy 6'7". He comes in instantly as our biggest interior defensive lineman, even bigger than TJ Slayton, the guy the Bengals just picked up. Yeah, right. He offers the same upside in the pass rush and run stuffing that a lot of these guys do. But I think Deion Walker over time can really bulldoze his way through and be a real force on the defensive line. That's one thing you turn on the film with Deion Walker. The one thing that I think that bothered me a little bit was his effort at points. Yeah. He came out to say that, hey, you know what? I was dealing with a broken back, right? This season. Deion Walker. Yeah. You know, you slot him in opposing, assuming that he's healthy, you feel very, very good about that. You come back at pick 102, a pick that, again, you did not necessarily, these weren't picks you had to start the draft, right, with 81. But now 102, you come back and you draft Andrew Mukuba. Why do you draft Andrew Mukuba? Well, Andrew Mukuba potentially is a replacement for Geno Stone. Geno Stone has one more year left on his Bengals deal. Cincinnati hasn't treated him greatly, but he hasn't treated Cincinnati greatly as well. You get Andrew Mukuba, a guy in here with ball skills quite like no other, has the ability to track the football down. You feel good about it. Noah Williams, another ball hogging guys. If you look at what we did with the draft, guys, sometimes we found ourselves double dipping on picks. We drafted the Noah Williams here because you got to feel good about Noah Williams' ball skills and his ability to track the ball in there. But here's one thing that's underrated as well. The Bengals have been really missing a lethal return man. I know Jermaine Burton showed a lot in the return game that made you feel hopeful at times, but Noah Williams is a guy that has that ability as well. Cody Simon was a Logan Fulmer pick through and through. He is a true captain. He's a true leader. He's a guy that does everything the correct way. Not only does he have the ability in coverage, right? We saw him play a lot of snaps in the slot. He also has the ability to rush the passer from a linebacker standpoint. 7 sacks this year, as what Logan alluded to. You got to feel good about it. Ollie Gordon was a pick that we traded up for. Why? Because we needed a guy that was going to offer something different from a Chase Brown, right? Running downhill, bigger style back. That's what you get with Ollie Gordon. He's going to be different from a Samaje Perine as well. So he's more explosive than a Samaje Perine. That's what you feel about. I'm being real with you. If you go off of last year, Ollie Gordon probably is not here at this point. No. Ollie Gordon is probably not here at this point. So you feel very, very good about it. And there are teams that last year that probably were considering taking Ollie Gordon in the second or third round. The Bengals get him in round 6 in this mock draft. And then you tailor that up. You finish that off with Holland Pierce. Holland Pierce, left tackle at Rutgers, came in, guess what? He came in weighing over 400 pounds. He showed the commitment, the effort, saying, I want to play football at the next level. This is a guy in Holland Pierce that, even though we talked about Arante Irsay playing left tackle in the future, maybe he's so damn good that you don't even want to move him. Well, guess what? Holland Pierce, you hope that he puts you in a spot where you don't even have to think about that. Listen, I believe competition breeds success. I believe the cream rises to the top. And I think these picks, these guys that we got, it will force your hand to make some tough decisions when it comes to the roster cuts. But to me, there's a lot of guys that are very similar on the Bengals roster. And this draft that we did here, it forces those guys to either rise to the top or fall off by the wayside. Guess what? I think a Noah Williams can push a Marco Wilson for his job. I believe that. I think a Holland Pierce could push for the backup tackle job that I think is held by, what's the left tackle that started for the Bengals last year that looked good at points? I forgot his name. It's going to come to me. But listen, to me, I think that a lot of these picks, Cody Simon is probably just slotted in there because the Bengals have holes at linebacker, especially considering what happens with Jermaine Pratt. Andrew Mukuba is a future pick. Deion Walker probably pushes a lot of these guys that we talked about, into a battle, right? Guys like McKinley Jackson. He pushes those guys into a battle on the roster. I think every pick had his intent, and I feel very, very good about this draft. And I think you leave this draft with more than one starter.
Totally. Yeah. I'm a fan of it. And like I said, if we're trading down, this is what you want the draft to look like. You want to
if
have
I
more
want the art
options.
dog, the left tackle spot, Arante Ursay, who has guard versatility, he would be slotted in at left guard. That's what he'd be slotted in. He sits at 6'6", so you don't have to worry about the height being too much. 6'6", that's what Alex Cappa was, 6'6".
Yeah.
You feel very, very good about that pick. You got to feel very, very good about that pick because guess what? A lot of people are saying that this guy's gonna be a booking tackle in the league.
Yeah, and I think the biggest concern with him was always a little bit of like a little quickness, but you slot a guy in at guard that's not as big of a concern, as it was a tackle. So, man, I'm a fan of this draft, and I really struggle to see how this draft was right. We did trade, a couple picks in the future. That's what this draft is for. You need this draft, right? This draft is, hey, you want an infusion of guys that can just come in here and be that next Super Bowl push that is this year and next year. And I think that these guys could develop, and I think you at least leave this with 4 future starters.
Here's the best part about this draft, guys. And one thing I think I don't want to get lost. I know Logan is tired. One thing I want to say is you turn what have been the Bengals' weaknesses the last couple of years into the Bengals' strength.
Yep.
The Bengals have been bullied in the trenches the last couple of years on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball. You in one draft and well, not one night, in 2 nights, you've turned this 3 nights. You turned this into a position of strength, and you feel very, very good about it. Holland Pierce has also said it on record saying he wants to play guard too. He wants the opportunity to play a guard, a 6'8" guard. Could you imagine a booking guy? Holy hell.
Insane.
Like to me, but even if, think about it this way. If you have an Arante Ursay or you have a Holland Pierce, imagine Orlando Brown breaking his leg like he did this past season. He does not have to be forced to play because guess what? The guys that you have backing him up aren't holding on by a string.
Yep.
You allow him to get the ability to rest himself to maybe come back for a playoff push versus worsening his injury and thus leading to a longer recovery time. That's what this pick is about. A lot of these guys should not have had to play. I love the passion more than the next, him playing for the city. But I think these picks do a lot to help preserve what the Bengals are ultimately trying to do, and that's bring a Super Bowl to Cincinnati. Tate Ratledge runs away with the right guard job.
Yeah.
Runs away with the right guard job. Deion Walker, I think you're going to have a hard time keeping that guy out the football field.
I agree.
I think I have a hard time keeping that guy out the football field. And I think Cody Simon is very similar. And Logan, correct me if I'm wrong, very similar to some degree to Logan Wilson as well. You could probably get a lot done with it. Yeah. I think you can get a lot done with it. I think you feel very, very good about the draft, and I think Noah Williams can push to be a starter by the following year. I really believe that. But I walk away from this draft feeling that a lot. I want to say bravo to y'all because I think this is our best mock draft we've ever done.
Yeah, and I think I'm a fan of it. That's what makes me hope that, and I'm always a fan of trades. I think you have to toy around with it if you're an NFL organization.
The only way I wouldn't if I were the Bengals, genuinely speaking, I know we did this for the mock draft exercise. I would not run that risk of James Pierce Jr. being there at 17 and trading back.
Yeah.
That's just not what I would do because I think that the chances of him making it to wherever you trade to are very slim.
Completely. And I think even for us, and I hope that if they're sold on James Pierce Jr., I agree. I think the only way you trade back is if you're not sold on anybody in round 1. But all around, I'm happy with it, man.
We got to make sure we post this draft too. But listen, that's all the time that we got. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of State of the Jungle 2.0. Next week, we'll be back with State of the Jungle 3.0 at our regular slotted time, Wednesday, 7 p.m. We're back with Evan on the show next week as well. We appreciate y'all. We hope that you guys enjoy your week. We appreciate that y'all spending your Friday night with us. Let us know down in the comment section what you guys thought of this draft. If you thought we could do things better, if you thought this draft sucked. I'm not seeing a lot of this draft suck, so I'm guessing the overall theme is this draft was pretty damn good. And I want to thank Logan and Daniel for really spearheading the charge here for a lot of these guys. Arante Ursay is not a guy that I expected. I did not come into this draft thinking Arante Ursay was going to be our second round pick, but guess what? He was. We appreciate you guys. Shout out to the best fan base in the world, Cincinnati Bengals. We appreciate you guys so much. And until next time, as always, who day?
All they ever do is win, so kick that, relax, the TWSN.
Shout out Young Swish.